everyone. Welcome to the Getting Real podcast with me, your host, Evelina Mrochka-Danjulakis, and we have my co-host, Katie Padilla.
Hi, everybody.
So welcome, everyone, to our second podcast that we have today. Today, we're going to be talking about family enmeshment and mother-enmeshed men. So we're going to be doing these podcasts every few weeks with, different topics each time because we don't want to overwhelm our audience with too many different topics. So today we'll stick to the enmeshment piece, which is a really big thing. And it's, I think, not talked about enough as much in our culture. So we'll stick to the enmeshment piece today. And so I'll hand it to Katie to start us off with some of the questions.
Okay, welcome everybody. And we're going to dive right into enmeshment. And I think there's lots of different terms to describe the emotional connection between maybe more like an unhealthy emotional connection with somebody outside of your your relationship dynamic. And so we're just going to kind of like dig a little deeper into that. So I'm going to ask you the first question. How does family enmeshment blur boundaries and make prioritizing your spouse feel like betrayal? What do you think?
Yeah, so that's a good question because it is all about boundaries, right? And when I think of enmeshment personally, I think of over-connectedness, like you're overly connected to a particular person or people, right, in your relationship. And sometimes it's hard to put boundaries with those people because you feel like guilt, for example, shame. It's this programming that we've literally had in us since we were little kids. And it's subconscious. Like you can't, for example, say no to your mom or your dad because you'll think, oh my gosh, I'm a bad son if I tell them about this boundary or that boundary. And
totally.
Especially if the boundary doesn't make sense or lack of boundary doesn't make sense to your spouse. It is like, because essentially what you're doing is you're putting your family of origin first and you're putting your spouse second. And when those things happen, I'm telling you, there just will be conflict. It's impossible because the spouse wants to feel like the number one person in your life, not your mommy or your dad, especially when you're in a relationship. And so there's a problem of loyalty there. Like you have too much like loyalty, too much over connectedness to your family of origin. And it can again be conscious or unconscious where you feel like, you feel like this guilt that like you cannot say no to them for the life of you. You can say no to your spouse and call and invalidate them, but you don't want to kind of go against your family system. And so it just causes unfortunately, a lot of conflict in a relationship because when you get married and you have kids, or even just getting married, even without kids, your spouse is your number one priority. It's no longer your family of origin. You're not a child, okay? Your spouse comes number one. And if they don't come number one, then be in a very tricky marriage situation until you kind of figure that piece out, and it's sometimes the spouse can't say something to you. They try to point it out, but if you're so enmeshed, it's hard to hear that. So Katie, I'll give it to you. Question.
No, absolutely. I had the same kind of situation. I had the same situation, and it's interesting how we kind of connected on that. But I think it's very common, and I noticed it kind of very early on in my relationship with my husband, and even right before we got married, and I was like, I just dove head first in and was just like, okay, I'm doing this, but if you don't establish those boundaries in the very beginning, it is very difficult to unravel. And I'm 21 years in. I don't know how long you've been married, Evelina.
10 years, but 15 years together.
Okay. So we're 21 years married, 23 together. So it's it's something that I have realized later, about 15 years into our relationship, where I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how deep these overly connected
Yes.
dynamics have gone. And I have been trying to understand them myself, because that was kind of in my childhood growing up. It was with my dad and my stepmom, how they had such a overly emotional connection with the two of them, and I was kind of like dismissed, so that like every time my husband and his mom would be around each other, I kind of felt that same wound being kind of like resurfacing. So just not really having the words to kind of express it and understand it, like it was so deep, it was such a deep wound. And now realizing like, wow, I would have loved to have had that kind of awareness and set those boundaries, because they can be very helpful when there's this over connectedness between your partner and their parents, or especially their mother. And it's some, like you said, it's hard to bring it up because they don't really see it. They don't really understand it. And if you bring it up, they get defensive. So, but it does feel like a betrayal almost to,
it is a betrayal. It is absolutely
to your spouse, right? Because you're not really relying on your spouse to work through things and connect with them emotionally. You're still connected with your mother, and it can really create a lot of issues. And yeah, it feels it's hurtful. It's very hurtful. It's painful, and it can turn into resentment for sure, which I know we'll talk about later on. But yeah, those boundaries are super important. But I think it's hard to establish those after you've been married, especially like in my case. Like, we were 15 years in, and I'm still trying, 21 years later, trying to figure out how to really establish these boundaries, which I feel like I've come up to a good solution with it, which we'll talk about later. But it's taken a long time, and it was more a lot of my healing and what I believe is healthy enmeshment, not even really healthy enmeshment, but just really healthy boundaries and healthy relationship with my mother-in-law and my husband and his mom. So it runs deep. It's a difficult thing to talk about and to understand, to be able to set those boundaries. So
yeah, and I just wanted to point out too, I don't know if you've done this, but I feel like a lot of people on the receiving end, and it's usually a lot of times it is the woman, because there's mother-enmeshed. There's a lot of mother-enmeshed men, but it can go opposite. You can be very enmeshed with your mother as a woman. 100%.
Well, you can also be enmeshed with your father. Like, she could be really enmeshed with her father and dismiss her husband, for sure. I think that's not as common, but it's definitely there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when you're on the receiving side, I don't know if you've noticed this, that right? Because me and you have similar experiences. At least I did. I always blamed myself. And I'm just like, well, I must be making a big deal out of this. I must be too needy. I must be needy. I must have maybe dysfunction in my family, that I don't understand this connection. But then the more healing you do, you realize, no, this is very sick. Like, this is not healthy. Like, yes, we all, and I'm glad, because my marriage with my husband has really started my healing process, right? And I'm
for sure, mine too.
Innocent, right? They're definitely not. There was some dysfunction there too, but like, this is on another level of dysfunction. I mean, this is just so unhealthy bonding, over bonding, that
it's almost like that. I hate to say like that trauma bonding, but it's almost like that in a way. Yeah. Because the parents, especially like if we're just going to focus on the husband and the mother, is she hasn't healed any of her wounds. And so then she attaches that, or, gives that to him. And then he feels, responsible and protective of her. And therefore he can't truly step into the marriage and be emotionally connected with his wife, because he still has those entanglements, that enmeshment with his mother. So, yeah, absolutely.
And he's like a little child, really. And it doesn't matter where you live, because at least in my case, we live in America, and my mother-in-law lives in Greece. And I was like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, they're
Yeah.
so far away. Oh, was I wrong? Oh, was I wrong? It doesn't matter if you live across the country. It's inside of you. It's the
Absolutely.
emotional piece. You can disconnect as much distance as you want. You can live the next door to your parent, but be emotionally, healthy, disconnected, you know? So
and I can account for that. My mom lives across the street from me.
there you go.
We have a very healthy relationship, at least in my eyes, because I mean, I'll go, 4 or 5 days without even seeing her. We don't talk on the phone, and we still have a great relationship. So they can live across the street and you just have to have those healthy boundaries. But that took a while for me to establish for myself. And it wasn't that we had any really enmeshment, but, I guess I take that back. There was a little bit of enmeshment with my mom and putting her kind of on a pedestal a little bit. So I had to really kind of heal my traumas and wounds from that so that we could establish a good, healthy relationship with those boundaries of not, putting her on a pedestal, but really looking at her as just my mother,
Like all of us, yeah. And I think I just want to stress to our audience, don't hold yourself only accountable for this. It takes two to tango in marriage or in a relationship. If you're feeling this way and you feel, oh my gosh, I think my partner is overconnected to their parent, you're probably right. There's a gut feeling that you have. It's not there for no reason. There's a reason why you're feeling off with that type of relationship. It's not just because you're the one that's hurt inside. Yeah, there could be some damage control there too, but that is not 100% the picture. Don't feel like you're the victim and that you have to do all this, work, and then the other person just goes and doesn't have to do anything, because that's not the case. And
I think that's where the boundaries come in, at least for myself, is when we start to heal that in ourselves, we then start to see, okay, this isn't really a healthy dynamic and we need to change that. And so it's starting to, incorporate those boundaries. And I think that's the hardest part. And that's at least what I've tried to figure, or not tried to figure, but that's what I've been figuring out, is that that's the hardest part, is to create those boundaries, because there wasn't any boundaries before. So now it's to hold them accountable, if you will, but also kind of protect us. And so I agree with you, that you're not 100% a victim, and, they don't get to just, continue with those dynamics without it causing a lot of issues. But when we start to heal and we can set those boundaries, it really starts to change the dynamic. And that's really empowering, I feel.
Yeah. And to add to that, is it your whose responsibility is it to enforce those boundaries or to lay those boundaries down? Is it you? Let's say in our case, with the mother-in-laws and the husband.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is that? Is that us, the wife's responsibility, or is that the son's responsibility?
Well, I think it can be both, because we are the ones that are aware of it as the women and the spouses. We're the ones that are aware of it. And we're like, okay, this isn't right. So then we say, okay, we're going to set a boundary with you and your husband. And then when you set that boundary, that's his then responsibility to set the boundary with his mother. So it becomes, the dynamic starts to shift more into the relationship, the marriage, where you're setting those boundaries because of you have expectations. And then you can say, okay, well, if you honor me and you respect me, you now need to set that boundary with your mother, and I will support you, right? Because that's what partners do. So that's the dynamic I see. Is that what do you think?
See, to be honest, I'm scared to set boundaries with my mother-in-law. I have PTSD from her. I do.
Yeah.
For real.
And I don't know if maybe you would have to. Are you saying maybe you were thinking you would have to, or your husband would need to?
Well, my husband can't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I've tried already for many years. So, I'm going to have to take the bull by the horns. And I've kind of gotten to the point in my healing that I honestly don't care anymore what these people think of me. I can be the scapegoat, because that's what happens. You end up being the scapegoat because you're like, how dare you disturb the family system? How dare you not?
Totally. Yeah.
Family first. How dare you differentiate and be self-differentiated from the family system? And you're like the scapegoat. But honestly, I've come to the point that it's okay. I can be the scapegoat, because I'm not going to pass this dysfunction on to my children. And I will protect my children and myself emotionally as much as I can from this type of dynamic. And there is truth in that. And so I think now I probably would set boundaries. And before I wouldn't, because I was still trying to understand everything. But now I'm like, wow, okay. Like you
and I think
have to be in the driver's seat.
I can agree with that. I think for me, I don't have a relationship with my mother-in-law at all. So I think it would be difficult for me to set a boundary with her.
Yeah.
So, and I even told my husband, I said, early on, like when we would have issues, we really never fought about anything. We only fought about their relationship. But again, like I didn't have the awareness or I was so wounded from my childhood that I had no vocabulary in how to heal this dynamic between my husband and I, because I hadn't healed my stuff. But where was I going with that? I don't have a relationship with my mother-in-law. And so I always knew it was something with my husband of not supporting me and not connecting with me and having my back. It was always to protect his mom because of the dynamic that was set up in his childhood. So I would have a hard time setting a boundary with her because I don't have a relationship with her.
I'm the same.
But yeah.
I
don't know. That's what I mean. Like, it's a tricky situation because when you have gone into your marriage and you've been together for a long time and then you start to establish those boundaries, you have to, it's like a delicate dance because it can really blow up, which I've had blow ups with, my mother-in-law feeling like she's been attacked and she doesn't want to be here and, all the drama, right? And then my husband, of course, protecting her. And that's hurtful, right? Because I'm like, you're supposed to be protecting me. You're supposed to be on my side.
Little kids.
We're a united front, but see, it always shows me that my husband and I aren't a united front. And that's always like shown to me. Mm-hmm. And that's what's hurtful. And so then I'm like, okay, then there's no way that I can set a boundary with her if we don't even have a united front to set a boundary. So
that is so good that you say that. And I think maybe in my case, that is what's going on, because exactly, I'm afraid to set a boundary because there is no real relationship. I don't trust her from a hole in the wall. It's all fake. Fake is because, again, we're disconnected, just like you and your husband. We don't agree. And so he's not going to go, exactly. It's not going to be like, this is how it's going to go down, mother-in-law. It's kind of like, no, I'm right, then he will go in and just do it her way. Because, again, it's the programming from a little age. They groom them from a little age to essentially take care of their emotional needs, which should be met by an adult partner or a therapist or a coach like us, by the way. We are coaches, right? And help with these type of dynamics, and so go see a coach or someone to help you. Don't use your kid as a pawn for your emotional grounding. And I think that is selfish, extremely selfish behavior.
Absolutely.
And it is not in any way, shape, and I would even go as far as to call it covert narcissistic.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think what's so hard that I have noticed in my relationship is that my husband doesn't even see it. He's not seeking it. He's not wanting to heal it. He's so enmeshed. He's so afraid. And he has said, I don't know what. He doesn't understand that the relationship doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be fully enmeshed and fully cut ties. There's a beautiful happy medium. And I've said to him, I said, I'd love to work with you and we can talk about it and we can figure out a way to have this great relationship. But there's so much fear there because of what was instilled in them when they were children.
And shame. Don't you dare disobey your mother. Don't you dare. It's like, you don't even have to say it. It's just
it's there.
Looking like it. But it's so sick. I can't even. I mean, these people need serious psychological help. I'm sorry.
It's really sad that this has happened to these men and these guys. And I'm trying to think of, like, John, I think, wrote a book. One of his very first books. It was something about the boy crisis or something. I don't know if he talks about that in there. This
John from Mars
functional dynamic. I don't know, but it is so ingrained, I feel like, in a lot of these boys because the husbands weren't there for their wives. And so the little boys step in, and at least in my situation, because my husband's an only child, And he took on all of that responsibility. And every time I tried to tell him and show it to him, he would just get so defensive. And I would take that personally, obviously. But now it's like I'm like, oh, he's just still protecting her. And not realizing how lonely I felt in our relationship because he just fully wasn't stepped into our relationship, because he has one foot in his relationship with his mother and one foot in with me, and not even one foot. I feel like it's always just one toe. It's still so enmeshed, and his father died years ago and they divorced years ago, but it doesn't matter. That ingrained, programmed, conditioned response to his mother is, you just can't get in between it. And I always felt like it was like, hey, pick me or her. And it was just always this conflict, but could never figure it out. And now I feel like I have a lot more clarity with it, but it doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, but it's so sad, Katie. These men are willing to throw away their whole marriage because of the connection with their mothers. They would rather throw away the marriage and the family of procreation that they have created to not upset the mommy, God forbid.
That's how tight that knit is. That's how enmeshed they are.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you have to talk about the fathers, like you said too, the disconnected fathers, because there is some guilt, there is some fault on that too. It's like, where were the fathers? In my case too, the dad was disconnected, doing his thing. And mine, functions, and she's then neglecting her spouse, which then her spouse is doing his own thing. So it's just the whole thing is so dysfunctional.
It's so messed up. Well, and you have boys, right?
I have two
girls,
boys.
and you have two boys, and so I can see you wanting to really break this cycle so that they can be healthy and have healthy relationships and know that, hey, I have a great relationship with my mom, but I'm here as your husband, right? Like, I'm stepping in and being a husband and a father, and my mom is here. She did a great job raising me, et cetera, et cetera. Like, having this beautiful, balanced relationship where, he can go off and live his life and not feel like he has to be responsible for taking care of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to have issues like this in 20 years with my daughter.
Yeah.
I actually want my daughter-in-laws to like me and to have a connection with me, because the reason I don't have a connection with my mother-in-law, I'm sorry, it's not only because of me. I will take some blame because I know I have my own stuff, that I had to deal with, but it is 100% not my fault. There is 50% fault there that she may not even know. But there's a reason why I don't really want to have a connection with her, because you're so overly connected to the point that it's actually like, it's such a put off. It's such there's nothing like, I can't be real. I can't be genuine, because she would never take my side. She would always take her precious son's side, because the kid could do no wrong. And that's where it's unhealthy. The mother-in-law.
They put them on a pedestal almost and make them the golden children. And is he an only child?
No, he has a younger brother who's also enmeshed, but not as bad as him. I mean, the whole family system is complete enmeshment.
Well, and he's the oldest child.
He's
so
the
that's
first.
Also, I can understand that too. So it also plays with the birth order. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The first and the oldest. And it's just such a sad dynamic. And yes, I don't want to have this situation. That's why I'm working on myself now. Yeah. Because I don't want to repeat this in 20 or 30 years if they decide, to get married or have partners. Like, I want to actually get along with these people. Like, I would personally protect the daughter-in-laws. If my son is doing something wrong, I would say, hey, what are you doing? Like, that's not how you show up with a spouse. Go and, take her on a date, or I don't know. Like, I would tell them. I wouldn't just keeping them like this golden boy, like you said, and putting them on a pedestal. Like, you're doing nothing wrong. Your spouse is just the one that's having the issue. And that's what it would be. And that's just fundamentally backwards from what a mother-in-law is supposed to do towards a daughter-in-law. So
totally. Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Good. Okay. How can confusing loyalty with love sabotage intimacy in marriage?
Well, just what we alluded to. It's that guilt and shame. Like this, they've been programmed, these, since little kids, these boys and girls who are enmeshed, who think it's connection, but it's really over connection. It keeps them in because there's this loyalty bind. And if you, God forbid, again, differentiate from the family system, There's that guilt and shame in it, which is dysfunctional. And it sabotages the intimacy because your spouse should be number one. And when they're not number one, you cannot have a mature relationship. It is practically impossible. It's like the mommy or daddy is number one, and you're just the mistress or the boyfriend on the side. There's no like union. There's no real union. So it destroys intimacy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you were saying earlier with your relationships with your boys and like when they get married and have their partnerships that, you know, you want it to come from love, not loyalty, not like I'm devoted to this, you know, my family, and so I have to give. But it's actually like, no, I have a great loving relationship, therefore I can love you. But if you feel loyalty to your family of origin, you could never fully step in and love your spouse.
You can't.
And you're right, there is no the intimacy there is. It will never fully be there because, like I said, with my husband, it's like 1 foot in his relationship with his mother and 1 foot in with me. And, you know, I took it personal for so long, and all I wanted was for him to have 2 feet in our relationship. But if there is this enmeshment and he's not even aware that it's happening and working at untangling himself, there really will never be the intimate relationship that I want and that I know he wants, but he's so afraid and he doesn't understand what he needs to do. And it doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be this black and white. It doesn't need to be this huge jump, this leap into, you know, coming over into the marriage, even though he knows that's what it's going to be, in the sense of like, he needs to fully be 2 feet in, but it's like, I can't even say anything because I'm criticizing. I can't say anything because he's still protecting his mother. And so it's just, there's that fine line of like trying to figure out how to talk about it in a way that there is no shame, there's no guilt, there's no anger, there's no resentment, but it's not healthy. This just isn't a healthy relationship. So getting him to see that without him actively wanting to change that, I feel like is kind of impossible.
Good thing. So, but you see how just listening to you right now shows how just crazy the whole situation is. Like the fact that you cannot even go to a grown man and say, hey, man, hey, spouse, your mom is a bit too much. And the fact that they get so defensive, because I'm telling you right now, if my spouse came to me and said, hey, your mom or your dad is a bit much, I was like, I know.
Yeah, same. I have no problem saying it.
Absolutely. I know my dad can be like that. I know my mom can be like that. They're not kings and queens here. You know, like I love my parents, but they're not perfect. They are far from perfect. And I have no problem with saying it as it is. And this is where you know the enmeshment is so bad when you cannot even tell them, these people, hey, your mom or dad may be doing X, Y, Z, and they right away get defensive. It's like, whoa, man, if you can't even, because you're an outsider, you know, you're like an outsider to the family system. They all think the same because that's all they're used to. But an outsider looking in is kind of like scratching their head and like, wait a second here. And if you can't even talk about that, wow. I mean, there is so much healing that needs to be done there.
Totally. I mean, that was, and I just remember early on in our relationship, like we had gone to couples therapy, like early on, like my daughter was little, like my second daughter was little. She was like a baby. And, you know, it was just so painful to bring it up and talk about it. And it just never, we ended up leaving because I was just like, she was charging too much or so. I know there was like some sort of extraneous circumstances in that sense, but it was like that was the biggest issue in our relationship, and it was so painful that every time I'd bring it up whenever she was going to come to town, I would cry because I was so hurt that he literally would treat her like a queen when she came into the house, and my girls would like run to her, and you know, she would give them all this attention. It was as if I was like non-existent, and I'm like, that just opened up that wound so much. So for years I suffered in this pain of like, oh my gosh, what do I do about this? So about 5 years ago was when I started to really like look at this and start to heal myself from it. Obviously, my part of it, yeah, I'm not a full victim in that sense, but really having to understand my part of it so that I can even start having those conversations with him where he's not defensive. I mean, that's crazy to me, but you're right. I mean, this is these grown men, but it's so enmeshed, it's so programmed, it's so conditioned that I don't even know how to break out of it, but it's step by step. It's little by little. And I do believe it will change the dynamics, but it takes an open heart, and it takes love, and it takes patience. But yeah, it's crazy.
But Katie, what advice would you have to people to stick in it? Because my boys are still little, they're 8, but you said you have older grown children. How did you survive? Honestly, how did you survive this? Because it's lonely. You're not understood. You're the scapegoat. You're the bad person. You're the one with the issues, not them. You're the one that's
100%. It was always me. And he even said he blamed me. He resented me. He blamed me. And I'm like, I didn't even do anything.
So what would you recommend to people? Like, how have you survived this many years without just saying, you know what, I'm done, man. Like, this is, go marry your mom. I'm done. Like, I'm going to find a real man.
Yeah.
But, then you're dealing with, there's always going to be the good and bad, right? And then you're dealing.
Absolutely. I think that's it, Evelina, because there is no real easy solution. You know how I dealt with it? I got really sick physically. I was like very sick. Like I was like bedridden and went to doctors. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
The stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had no idea. Like, it was so awful. And I struggled with it for many, many years. And then, like about 5 years ago was when I kind of had like this awakening, because I was just in so much pain that I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I didn't know what else to do. And it was almost like a spiritual awakening, if you will, because I just kind of like surrendered to God. I'm not a religious person, but I was just kind of like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I'm in so much pain and I'm scared. And that was kind of where it was just like this awakening piece of just like, wow, you've been holding all of this in. And I read something the other day about the women, I think like 90% of the women or people who have autoimmune issues are women. And it's because of suppressed rage and pain and wounding. And I'm like, absolutely. And I couldn't use my voice because if I did, I was blamed, but it just all goes back to my childhood and my conditioning and my programming, where I couldn't say anything against my stepmom or my dad. He would always defend her. And so it was just that dynamic playing out in my marriage that I didn't even really see fully. I mean, I kind of knew, but like until I started like really doing a lot of my healing work and like figuring out where this pain was coming from and all of that, I didn't really know the depth of it. And it's been 5 long years of trying to figure out, is it okay to leave? Should I leave? Will that solve these issues? I don't know. I don't really have an answer, except that it's made me a lot stronger in myself and my love for myself, being able to face this and move through it and heal it. Mm-hmm. And now it's like kind of having a bigger picture of like, I actually do have a choice now to see like if I leave, I'll be okay. Whereas like I felt before, maybe I wouldn't be okay if I left. But now it's really like a conscious choice. Like I'm choosing to stay because of my family. Like I have my youngest daughter, she's 17 and a half. So we have 1 more year of her being at home. And then, maybe I'll make a decision then. But my whole thing was my family was so important to me that I wanted an intact family. Yeah. And, and I know my husband said that as well with his mother, that she stayed with his dad because she wanted an intact family. And, some people could say, well, that's just as bad as leaving. But to me, I wanted the family unit, and I was going to do everything I could, even if it meant that I would have to suffer.
Sacrificing yourself. You're
Exactly. And I did, and I have. And through these last 5 years, I've started to really learn to not sacrifice myself and really get clear on not abandoning myself and not hurting myself, and getting stronger and stronger in that sense, so that if the time comes that I'm like, okay, I'm done, I tried everything and there's just nothing else I can do, then I can leave and feel at peace about it. I don't think I could have felt at peace about it before. So
you always wanted the people pleaser in us. Yeah. Try one more thing, one more method, one more that, one more this. But
totally.
Come to realize that a lot of these mommies, boys, they won't leave. They will make you leave.
Yes.
And then so because they don't want to take the brunt of it. Like, I don't have life left to me. I tried. I was such a good person. We just had different values.
Right.
No. It's just because I'm married emotionally to my mother, and my wife couldn't stand that.
Absolutely.
For 20 years, and I wasn't listening. So you're seen as the wives in this case are seen as the bad people for leaving because they've had it up to here, and you want to keep your family intact, of course, but everybody has limits, man. I'm sorry. Like,
totally. Oh yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I can't say for anybody else, but for me, what was the most important to me was to be able to be at home with my daughters. And I would have done anything and everything to be at home with my daughters. And I've always had that. I never wanted to work. I wanted to make sure I was a stay-at-home mom for whatever reason. I mean, I wanted that, and I was going to do whatever it took to keep that intact. And like I said, like I have like a year left with my youngest daughter, and then I'll make a decision. But to me, that was way more important. And in that time, these last 5 years, I have been working so diligently on myself, despite my husband, despite whatever, is going on with him. I've used all of that evidence with his mother and with my family, and been able to really get stronger in that sense. So yeah, everybody has limits, and I 100% agree with you. So I can't say for one person, they have to decide for themselves. But for me, that was my most important, was my family unit. So, because I have friends who are like that. No, they're like, done. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I give kudos to them too, because that takes a lot of strength as well.
Oh, it takes strength to stay and it takes strength to leave. But I almost feel like it takes more strength to stay because you have to fight yourself essentially daily. You have to fight your intuition because your intuition is saying this is so wrong, like what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's so kind of unfair. And it's very difficult when you say, again, I don't judge one way or the other way. But
yeah.
I think sometimes even harder to say because you're literally having to work 15 times as hard on yourself. And you're taking much of the blame.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened with my physical symptoms and everything. So yeah, it's definitely hasn't been easy.
I can imagine.
Wow. Okay. So question number 3. We're only on number 3. When your identity depends on family approval, how does it weaken marital decision making?
Yeah, so I have a simple answer to this. It just erodes trust. It just erodes trust completely because with your spouse, right? When you're taking, again, your family of origin side over your spouse, and you need to get their approval directly or indirectly, because remember, a lot of these things are ingrained in us. Then, of course, if your spouse thinks differently, if they have a different, let's say, value system than you do, like in my case with my husband, we have fundamentally different values because we come from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
There's a cultural gap there, like what is expected in their culture versus what's expected in my culture, or the American culture, right? If you don't listen, or if you kind of don't care about their value system, let's say, per se, then you're kind of not really listening to your spouse, and you're just doing what the family system has always done, even though it's maybe healthy or unhealthy. So for me, I just think it's the trust issue. It just gets eroded because you're not hearing your spouse. So how can you strengthen the marital unit? You can't.
Totally. I mean, that hits so deep because that's exactly what has been a difficult situation in our marriage is the trust. And again, like I was so unconscious to all of this before until I, woke up and was just like, oh my God, what is really happening here? And realizing that there has never been trust. We have never been able to build that. So it starts from the beginning. And again, like not really understanding the full depth of it and realizing like when I go to make a decision or, talk about stuff with my husband and realizing like, oh, we're not on the same page. It's just like, yeah, there's just no trust built there. And where does that come from? And all of those other things. And so sometimes I would get, very aggravated and take it personally and really want to, try to like give to be able to, make it help make the decision less stressful, but then it all comes on me and I'm like, no, that's not okay either, because then he's not taking any accountability, and it just and then there's layers to that. So I 100% agree with you on that.
And
the trust level.
And then do you ever feel like gaslighted? Like I feel like
it's so crazy. I didn't even like
your own reality, like that's not how it is, invalidating your feelings and emotions, and then you're the one thinking you're crazy when it's like, no, it's just gaslighting. There's psychology. It's like reversal. Like, they're just reversing what you're really seeing and feeling. Like you're the problem again. Like you're always the problem. Yeah,
it's crazy to me because I didn't even know what gaslighting was until like a few years ago.
Recently, I was like,
and then I was like,
number one.
Oh my God. And it's like literally like only like a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, you're totally gaslighting me. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, if you don't even know, I can't even tell you because I can't even explain it to you. But like you're doing that and you do that to me all the time.
They deny your reality.
All the time. Yeah.
They deny your reality to make sense of their dysfunctional reality in their head. They have to deny your reality of what you're actually thinking and feeling to be like, I don't know, like.
Totally. Well, and that's the thing is, like I said, like this whole dynamic had played out in my childhood with my dad and stepmom, and how I was the problem. I was the scapegoat. I was like, she dumped everything on me and he protected her. And so I did not even realize how much gaslighting had been happening in my childhood and then in my own marriage. And then now like having the words to it and understanding it and seeing it is like, wow, I can't believe I have let this happen. But at the same time, I didn't even realize that's what it was. And then being able to kind of come back into my own dignity and being like, no, I know I didn't do anything wrong. I know I am allowed to say these things and feel these things. And if you have a problem with that, that's your problem. But it's so easy to say that, because everyone's like, oh, well, that's your problem, whatever. But like actually living it and feeling it and having someone actually point their finger at you and say, you're the problem. It's damaging. It's very traumatizing, especially if that's what you've experienced as a child,
Oh, it's traumatizing. Like I said, I literally have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I have realized from these people, from my husband's family, like literally primarily the relationship with the husband and the mom, and the relationship that has occurred with my husband. 100%. There has just been so many things that have happened, It's primarily like our twins were born because we didn't have any issues before that, but then the real surface stuff. It's just like I've actually decided to go low or no contact with this family. Like I just can't. I cannot.
You can't. It's too
much. I can't. I'm like, you know what? You can maintain a relationship, but I am all set. Like I don't want to have what I've seen thus far is just not okay, and I'm not going to continue to think that it's okay and go around these people and act like, oh, everything is fine. How are you? It's just like, no. Like for my sanity, like I'm right now focusing on my sanity. I'm like, for my sanity, I just want to limit as much contact. Again, be that scapegoat, no problem. I don't care. But I would rather that for my own mental health than try to talk to these people about it, which is useless because they're not going to get it anyways. They're going to like, she's the bad God, Katie, bad Evelina. She's
Yeah.
causing trouble here. I don't know what is the problem. I've been so kind to her. And the enmeshment, by the way, doesn't end with the at least in my case, with the kids. It goes into the grandkids, because that's what my mother-in-law tries to do with
Yes. Oh.
literally, they're her children. And she did this when she lived with us, when she came from Greece, because she happens to be Greek. And it's that whole cultural thing, like family first, obsession, complete enmeshment is really what it is with family. Mm-hmm. And so she tries really hard to do that with my children. But luckily, I have to say, Katie, my kids are 8. And they're already seeing the dysfunction. Like
you know what's crazy?
They're already seeing, whoa, this lady is a wow. She's a lot, man. Like she treats us. They're 8, and she treats us like we're 1. Like literally, they tell me this because I didn't go last time to Greece with them, and I'm like, wow, like you guys are so intuitive and so amazing, and I will not protect that relationship. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, and that's so true. I mean, that's exactly how my daughters are too. I mean, they, you know, when they were little, it was really difficult because she would just be overly like, you know, oh, huggy, kissy, and, you know, very affectionate with them. And I'm just not like that, you know, like I'm not, you know, but they loved it. They needed it. She would get on the floor with them and play with them and do all this, you know, like come in like Santa Claus, you know, and it was like, I was like, I don't stand a chance here, and I would talk to my mom about that, and she's like, it's okay, they'll see it, don't worry, they'll see it, and now, yeah, they're just like, they never talk to her. It's usually what birthdays and maybe Christmas, but other than that, like, they don't really talk. They have no relationship with her, and they know, they see it. They see the fakeness. They see the dysfunction, and they're not necessarily like, oh no, I'm not going to have that. It's more like they're just so aware of it. They're so in tune to it, and they're like, yeah, I don't really want that type of relationship. So it's like, okay, good. Like they're seeing that, you know, and especially like if they date a guy and they see that he's enmeshed with his mom, they're like, oh, mom, that's a mama's boy. They'll call it out all the time. Like, mom, that's a mama's boy. That's a this, you know, and I'm like, yes, it is.
But good for you on your parenting to have instilled that in them, that they know the dysfunction, because I will do the same thing. Like, you know, with my children, if I see any sort of enmeshment, I will absolutely 1000% tell them. I'll be like, yo, dude, this girl is way enmeshed with her mother. Like, like if that's on your relationship, that's cool, but hopefully they'll be smart enough to see it, because they can see it's weird. It's just off-putting.
They know. Yeah. It's just the energy. They feel it, which is interesting, but they can feel it. They're in tune with it. Yeah.
And grandparents should, don't get me wrong, they should love their kids, you know, their grandkids. Like I had a good relationship with my grandmothers and fathers, and I loved them. But they were also more functional. They weren't like over functioning, over giving, over this, over that, not as paranoid, more calm, not so obsessive with everything. And that's why I was able to have I have a natural relationship with them. It's not like this forced, I love you, I love you, I love you 47,000 times. I'm like, you sound like a mental person when you say 50,000 times. And the more you try to, I feel, connect with the person, you're like, it's too much. Like you actually distance the person. That's what's been in my case. Like, I feel like she wants the connection, my mother-in-law, so bad that it's like off-putting not only to me, but my children again are starting to realize this. I think the only one who realizes is my husband.
Yeah, exactly. It's so ingrained in him. He just can't zoom out. He can't distance himself from it to really see that this isn't okay. It's just not healthy. Yeah.
I feel so bad for these people. I really do.
It is. I feel like it's sad. It's sad that this is happening. And the thing that's also sad is that like they have us as these women, these awake women, to see it, and they're not able to appreciate that and really see that, hey, we're here to help break this dynamic. And it's so ingrained that like, I don't know how you can break through it, you know? I mean, until they have their own kind of awakening, if you will, to be like, wow, I didn't realize I was in that, and then work towards unraveling that and healing that. But that's what I've been trying to do with my husband, and I'm telling you, it is a long process, but it's also like he doesn't care.
Well, yeah, there's a saying, happy wife equals happy life. In their case, it's happy mommy equals happy life, not happy wife. Like, just disregard that. And that's where all the problems come in. And of course, every daughter-in-law wants to have a relationship with her mother-in-law. Of course, that's such an important relationship. But if you've tried for years, and I have tried for years, and I'm just like, there's just no way I can. There is no way I can have a normal, functional relationship with this lady.
I think for me, the only way I could is if my husband starts to realize and starts to work towards healing that relationship with her, then I could see it. But yeah, I agree with you. There would be no me reaching out or me trying, because I just don't think that would happen. But if my husband started to make those steps to do that, absolutely, I'd be on board. And I've even told him, I said, if you would just start taking the steps to do this, to heal this, to see this, it would be really important, because we could really create a great dynamic. But every time he tries, or every time he thinks he's doing it, it's always out of like a knee-jerk reaction instead of like truly wanting to do it himself, like truly wanting to heal.
You and just
absolutely.
But yeah, of course, if my husband actually did healing, yeah, I also wouldn't mind I'll try to have a relationship. But if that's not going to happen, I'm not going back in the lion's den, which is exactly you're going back to get scratched and sniffed and God knows what in that lion's den. And then you're coming back and you need a year to recover.
You're like, whoa, what happened here? Seriously.
Anytime I go and see these people, I just can't. Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable, for sure. This is good. How much time are we in? Or do we need to?
Yeah, the next questions hopefully will be,
okay. I know. How does normalized over-involvement damage autonomy, trust, and healthy conflict?
Right. So there's that over-involvement piece, right? I think people think this over-involvement, right, is love and connection, when in reality, it's not. It's enmeshment, over-involvement, and no differentiation. Like, because when I think of my husband, he's like my mother-in-law junior. He like literally his mannerisms, the way he parents, which drives because he parents the way she taught him. And actually, one of the main things we fight about is the parenting, because it's so different, my parenting model versus his, because of what he saw at home. So he has a very anxious, paranoid parenting, where I have a more relaxed, permissive style, which was more from like my mom and her side. And the no differentiation piece. And then basically there's also no sense of self, right? Because you have it's a family system self. It's like the whole system feels the same, parents the same, thinks the same, and God forbid you get out of that. Oh my gosh, it would be like, what do you mean you don't want to do it this way? So basically everyone behaves the same way, I feel like, in the family, to keep the peace,
Totally.
You don't want to disturb the status quo. So it will damage, of course, healthy conflict, because you can't basically say, no, I'm not going to do that. Or if you do, you feel guilt and shame, God forbid, for standing up for your wife that thinks this is very silly what you're telling us to do, Madre, or what your belief system is, or different parenting model, whatever. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's interesting that you brought up the whole parenting part, because early on, I would be so frustrated when I had kind of had my wits end being at home with my kids all day. And, I was waiting for him to get home to kind of relieve me of just being like, hey, I just need a break. Like I haven't talked to any other humans today besides my kids. And, this one's screaming, this one didn't take a nap or whatever. And it's just like, I just need to like calm down. Well, he would like pile on top of that. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to be the chill one. You're supposed to be the relaxed one. You're supposed to come in and be like, hey, chill out. It's okay. Mom, go take a bath. Mom, go do whatever. Oh no, I had to then double down and continue to keep being peaceful, keep being calm, because if I didn't, he would just jump on top of that. It used to drive me crazy. And I was like, once again, I feel like I have no partner. But again, it was a very unconscious thing that we were playing out. And it used to make me so angry, because I was like, hey, I need your support. I need your help. I have been at home all day. But see, he didn't see it as, working, or it was hard. It was, oh, she's sitting at home eating bonbons all day. I have to go work. And, because his mom worked all the time. So both his parents worked full time. And so me staying at home was like a luxury. And it was like, you have no idea. So he did not respect it at all.
It's the hardest job. Yeah.
He didn't respect it, and he didn't understand that I needed a break just as much as he did. Like there was this like talk about a different dynamic with that.
Yeah.
I never understood it until I started to zoom out and be like, oh my gosh. Because he said when we got together, he's like, no. He's like, you can continue working. I'll have my mom come, be here with the kids while you go to work. And I was like, no. That's why I was like, this is my job. I'm staying home with my kids.
They would love it.
Yeah.
But she would come tomorrow and stay for a year if we allowed her.
She would have. She
different.
totally would have. And I was like, hell no, that is not happening. So he never appreciated it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He didn't really understand. He didn't appreciate it. He didn't respect it. He didn't value it because his mom didn't. So again, there's just like all these layers. You start looking at it and you're just like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? But to me, it was like, I wanted that family unit and I was going to do whatever it took. And I sacrificed a lot of myself to maintain that and keep that. And now seeing it and being like, wow, how did I survive that? How did I do it? I have no freaking clue, but I did. And, now I feel like I'm a lot stronger in who I am as a person and as a woman to be able to get through all that. So
yeah, because you thought about your children, because that's what I always think. Oh God, I have thought of leaving every other day for the last 10, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
But I always go back to my poor children. I'm like, what will happen to these poor little kiddos? Like,
yeah.
And it just breaks my heart to have to, put them in 2 different houses. And then, the mother-in-law will just come and basically raise your children for you.
Absolutely. And
more issues there. And
it's not even like another woman. Like that was the thing. It was just like, I'm not even worried about another woman. I'm worried about the mother-in-law. Like, I don't want her coming and raising my kids to raise them like that.
But isn't that insane that like you have to worry so much about the mother-in-law where you should be like, wow, it's a mother-in-law that is so great. Like when I think of my grandmothers, I spent so much time with my grandmothers, but they were total different dynamic. They just
totally
not this enmeshment piece. They were just
totally
completely.
Do you have brothers? Or do you have
there's 3 of us. There's an older sister, me, and then my brother. Okay. And we are just very different. Like,
But he's not enmeshed with your mom.
He's not married yet, but I think he's enmeshed. I think if he had a wife, I think he would respect her, and treat her. And if not, he would quickly find that out from the wife very fast that that's not going to go. That's not going to fly. But yes, I do have the sister and the brother, so it's a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see like the dynamic there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. How does triangulation with parents or siblings quietly erode marital unity?
Because you're basically saying that your family of origin comes first, right? They're coming first, and spouse, you're coming second. So good luck with that.
Yeah, basically. I agree. I'll just concur with you on that one. How can a marriage thrive when a man still prioritizes his mother's needs over his wife's?
So I can't. My answer to that is it actually cannot thrive. So it completely damages trust and connection in the marriage. There is no way that you may still be in the marriage, like you have done over the last 20 years. I'm not saying people will go get divorced, but it's not going to be a fulfilling, loving, caring, mutually connected marriage. It cannot.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because just the other night, like my husband and I've had hundreds, thousands of conversations about our relationship, and finally just coming to a head, like actually being honest and straightforward with something that we didn't really want to acknowledge, which was the way our marriage was and how he thinks marriage is what we played out for 15 years. And I lost myself in it. I was not really a person. I was a shell of a person. I could go on and on, but I was basically like a Stepford wife for him because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Versus now, what I believe a marriage is that partnership, the love, the connection, the growth, the evolution. And I have been trying the last 5 years to get him to see my side and be here with me in this way, because I'm like, hey, this is the way it could be. And he has been fighting me and fighting me and fighting me and just doing it as a reaction to just appease me. And finally, it was like the other night, I was just like, you know what? I think we need to just respect each other and just be like, hey, this is the way you see marriage. There's nothing wrong with it because that's what you believe, and that's okay. I'm going to allow you to have that belief because that's what you believe. But I said, but you need to also respect and know that this is how I believe a marriage is, and this is what it should be. And if you could just allow me to have that instead of us both trying to fit each other into our ideas of what marriage is. And then once we've been able to establish that, then maybe we can build our own relationship on maybe those two sides. And he was like, hey, he's like, that actually makes a lot of sense. He said, and I am excited about that. He's like, I could see us maybe building a relationship that way. And I said, okay. And I said, I don't want to make any decisions, but I think we need to just sit with this and settle with it and just really see. Both of us have been trying to fit each other into our ideas of what marriage is. And I said, and I refuse to go back to your way, and you refuse to go to my way. And I said, I think that's huge that we just need to acknowledge that. And it really created some peace for a minute. So
I feel like there's also stubbornness a little bit too, because within a marriage, one has to kind of, in a way, a little bit give in. But if you've been giving in, like in your case, from what I'm hearing from you, you've been giving in and stretching and molding into yourself into a pretzel and doing all these gymnastics and all this stuff, and he's just not willing to budge. There's only so much. He's stubborn. I'm sorry. He sounds like a stubborn person.
Stubborn. He wants to be right, and his way is right. And it's like, I have been trying to be like, hey, but I have my side's right too, fighting for it and everything. And it was just finally I was like, hey, let's just have a consensus here. This is just, we're going to put our dukes down. I'm not going to try to be right and say this is the way it's supposed to be. And you need to stop saying that, your way is the right way it needs to be. We need to just agree to disagree in this sense and just be like, hey, it's a truce. Let's just let it be what it is. And then we'll see what happens after that. But the fact that we couldn't even say that to each other, and having this revelation or this reality hit me in the face, was just like, oh my gosh, I feel so relieved. It just felt like, oh, we finally, after this battle had been going on for so long, But
you know what I think it also is? The moms, how they raise these men. It's like a sense of entitlement. These men, literally, they have this sense of entitlement. They think that they are somehow always right. They think that they always have to give the last word. There's really they weren't taught respect.
God, no.
I'm not kidding. I don't think they were, because if they were, they would not treat their spouses like that. And I feel like,
well, and you're right. I mean, I think it comes from the fathers not respecting the mothers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he completely disrespected his mother, his father did. And so it's like, he has no respect at all for women. And I'm just like, oh my God, having that revelation, being like, wow, okay, not just me.
Not good modeling from the fathers. I agree, because the father's supposed to protect the mom. And even my parents, they had their issues, but my dad always, I feel protected my mom. If you say something about my mom and sometimes you're like, oh gosh, my dad will quickly step in and put you in your place. And that's called a supportive spouse. Okay.
Absolutely.
Like all marriages do. And, back in the day, maybe he wasn't as supportive, but I feel like today, you don't even say.
Well, and that's the thing is just even if it came down to my mother-in-law saying something to me that was totally disrespectful, my husband would never support me and be like, hey, mom, that was not okay. That's uncalled for, whatever. And it's that's all I ever wanted. And that just goes back to my childhood wound of my dad always siding with my stepmom and just dismissing me. And so it's I've never been protected my entire life. And it's the one person that you want to protect you is your husband, but he can't protect you if he's protecting his mother.
Yeah.
He's entwined with that. He's enmeshed with that. And there's no way that he's going to see that and do that for you. And to me, that just helps me to understand it on such a deep level that, like I had told him, I was like, I just took it so personally that you were doing this to me. And it was so painful.
That's the biggest betrayal. It's like he's cheating on you. Like, you might as well just go
Yes.
with girls, because that's what it feels like. It feels like a betrayal that he's cheating on you, and he is. But instead of cheating on you with another person, he's cheating on you with his actual parent, with his mother,
which is
sickest dynamic.
It's
okay?
Sick. It's pretty sick.
It's called emotional incest. There's a book by Ken Adams, actually. It's called Emotional Incest and When He's Married to Mom. I would highly recommend the book When He's Married to Mom by Ken Adams. And there's another one, something about incest. And it's not the physical incest, obviously.
Oh, no.
Emotional.
But that that's the emotional intimacy that you need to build with your partner. And if they have that with their mother, it's just, that is sick. That's incest. And that is true. And that is that intimacy that women all want in our relationships, and men do too. But if they are totally enmeshed with their mothers, there's no way they can have that with their partners.
Emotional needs met by their mother. They don't need to go anywhere else. They'll have mistresses to pretend, but their emotional needs get met by their spouse, and that's why the book is called Emotional Incest. And I had my husband actually read the book. And he's like, no, I don't have that. I don't have those feelings. When I read it, I was like, absolutely, yes. I like everything. And then when my husband read it, he's like, no, I don't have those feelings. And I'm like, of course you don't.
No.
You think this
there was a book that came out, I don't know how many years ago, probably 15 years ago, with it's called The Love Dare. Did you ever read that one? That was also kind of the same thing, but it was more of like a religious one. But anyways, it was talking about like 10 different dares that this guy was supposed to do to win his wife back. And it was like, one of them was like the mother-in-law, like his relationship with his mom. And I was just like, and I kept telling my husband, I'm like, it says in the Bible to leave your mother and father and cleave to your wife. And I'm like, hey, this is what you need to do. And he's like, well, I don't understand that. He's like, you're just defensive. You just do whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the truth. But it's like being able to explain it and understand it, like how we're talking about it now, is so more, you can understand it better versus like having that phrase. It's like they don't understand it. And it's like, we understood, at least I did. I understood it very early on when I read that years ago. But to actually live it out and to actually untangle himself from that connection with his parents.
These guys should never get married. I feel like they should just live with their mom.
No. Yes.
You're getting it. See, in my case, it's like when you're getting involved and you're messing now with my life, forget it. That's when I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I don't care what you did when you were younger and what kind of stuff you had, what kind of relationship you had. But when you bring this into my house and now you're interfering with my life, my children's lives, that's when it's like, this is personal at this point. Like, this is no longer like on the surface because you're dealing with another person's life.
Absolutely.
And it's not funny anymore. Like, if this is the way, even go get married to your mom, live with your mom, and then decide. Okay? That's cool. But don't bring in another person into that dynamic and ruin their life because it's more unresolved, dysfunctional dynamic there. Okay? It's so unfair. And quite frankly, it's abusive. It's emotional.
It is. I agree with you 100%. And I think that's the thing is like, marriage, I think at least, 20 years ago for myself was very different than what I see it as now. And that's why I was telling him, it's like, I see marriage so differently where it is you grow together, you heal those wounds together. And that's what creates that emotional intimacy because you're now trying to be intimate emotionally and connected with your partner. And you've untangled that connection with your parent, whether it be your father or your mother, but in this instance, obviously your mother, and healing that and making the steps to evolve with that. And he's always putting his foot down and he's like, I don't want to grow. I don't want to evolve and everything. And it's just like, I see that. And it's like, he's told me this and yet I've still, stayed and everything. Obviously I have my reasons, but it's it's so different now. And I tell my girls this too. It's like when you are going to be with a partner, I was like, it is not going to be this dependency. It's going to be you're growing, you're working together, you're creating these connections, these intimate connections. And, I think when you start to look for your partner, you'll be able to see real clearly that they're ready to do that. And that is respectful. That is fair, right? Like you were saying, it's just like, because you are not bringing that stuff into your relationship to continue it, you're bringing it into the relationship to heal it. And you can do that together. And John talks about that all the time about, you're growing together, you're evolving together in love. And that's what it's supposed to be. But that's not what happened 20 years ago with myself, which I'm not going to blame it. It's just kind of like now seeing it, it's like, gosh, I really wish I would have been aware of it, but I wasn't. And now it's like, okay, I can start making those decisions to say, this is the relationship I want, and this is how I want it to be. And if you don't want that, that's okay. I respect you, but then you need to respect me for saying I want something different. 100%. Because you can't give it to me.
Yeah, and remember, you can't, there is a little bit of covert narcissistic behavior there, though, by these men. Like, in the beginning, there's love bombing, as you know. And don't blame yourself, because you would have never known that. When you first met them, they love bombed you to the nth degree.
Very charming.
Never known that. Like, and they protected, at least in my case, their relationship with their mother, like, of course, because they don't see anything wrong with it. So they will protect that. So there's no way us women, for example, in our case, would have seen that. It's
it's so unconscious.
It's so unconscious, and they're wearing a mask. They don't even know they're wearing a mask. Yeah. Okay. But
until you get into your relationship, you can start to see it all. Before then, you can't really see it. And then it's like, oh, crap, Anyways, what were you going to say?
Late already, when you're married and have kids, then you start seeing, oh my gosh, what kind of dynamic is this? But there's always red flags, because I have to say, I did see red flags 100% before. I just didn't know it was that bad. Didn't know
exactly.
That level of in-depthment. But do your girls see the enmeshment between your spouse and his mom? So they see it.
Oh, totally. Okay. Yeah, it was funny. There was a show not that long ago on TLC called Mama's Boy, and they watched it. They'd even watch it with my mother-in-law, and she would be like clueless. She had no idea that basically that's what they were watching. They're like, Mom, Grandma doesn't even know that this is what it's like with Daddy. And I'm like, I know. It's kind of funny.
But isn't that just baffling? Absolutely baffling.
She's completely unconscious. If you even said any of that, she'd be like, you're talking a foreign language. She would have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. And even watching the show, they're like, yeah, Mom, we told Grandma. That's what
she would start crying and using the guilt machine. Like, I just love you guys so much. This is putting on again this attention. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay. When a husband seeks maternal approval before making decisions, is he showing up as a partner or as a little boy? I think we can answer that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we just talked about that enough. Yeah. Basically, they're little kids. They're little kids who are stuck needing their mom's conscious or subconscious approval. And essentially these men need to grow up. They need to grow up. They need to emotionally detach. Okay, physically detached. Doesn't matter where you live physically.
Exactly.
Emotionally, and that's where people get so stuck. Like, well, I don't live with my mom. I've been living with myself for 20 years. I don't live. Who cares?
Yeah. How many times you talk to her on the phone? How many times you talk to her when you have a problem?
Every other day. They're like, no, dude. Or on the weekends, like, no. What could you possibly talk about for hours upon hours? Like, what in the Lord's name could you do? Like, okay.
No, and he talks to his mom every Tuesday and Thursday after work, and I'm like, I don't even talk to my mom, and she lives across the street from me. Like, I can go weeks without talking to my mom and be like, hey, I love you. How's it going?
It's the same with me. Yeah. They have to emotionally detach to be truly happy and independent. And they, unfortunately, are dealing with very needy, over-involved. These mothers are needy, over-involved narcissists. I don't know how else to describe it. They're basically narcissists. They feed off of their emotions instead of feeding off of an adult's emotions. They use their poor little children as pawns. So I cannot feel bad for these type of mothers. It's like, you know what? Karma. You get what you get. When you do to your kid, which is emotionally abusive, don't expect it not to catch up with you in 20 years, which in my, for example, case, it is 100% caught up with my mother-in-law because of the dynamic now that we have between me and her. Like, and in your case, probably
too. their job to grow up and be responsible for how they raise their children and to start to change the dynamic. It's 100% their responsibility, just like it's our responsibility to heal, right? And if they're refusing to do that, that is a very narcissistic, selfish thing. And it's not okay. And it needs to be changed and brought to light, which is what we're doing, talking about this, which is great.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people struggle with this, Katie, and they don't even know the words. They don't have the words. They know something is off, and they're like, "What's going on?" It's like,
what's going on? How do I get that? Yeah.
Them and be like, "Here, husband or wife, watch."
I know.
That's not how I feel. And sometimes you don't have words.
I know. How does unresolved mother-enmeshment create division, resentment, and emotional insecurity in marriage? We've kind of already touched on that a lot.
Well, resentment, because you have resentment towards like the spouse's parent, because they kind of take the place of you in a way. So of course, how can you not have division? How can you not have resentment, emotional insecurity when there's no detachment, right, from the parent?
It's just a given. I mean, there's no other way around it, and it is there, and it's just being aware of it so that you can change it and fix it for sure.
Yep.
If a man avoids boundaries with his mother, can he truly build loyalty and unity with his spouse? We've kind of already answered that too. Yeah.
No, they can't, because again, these mothers are extremely selfish, self-centered, and they need constant validation. They need constant validation.
They need to grow up. They need to grow up, because that's the other thing I was just thinking too, is if these women could just grow up and take accountability, then we wouldn't have to create these boundaries with our partners. They wouldn't have to create the boundary with their parent. Their parent would actually grow up and be a parent. And wouldn't that be wonderful? But it's like, why are they not doing it? What is not happening in their life where they need to start taking some self-reflection and start to grow and change so that they can break the dynamic too, and not have it be us as the partners, as the spouses, to be able to do that. Yes, that there's part of that where we can grow, and it helps us to grow and be stronger. But if they could also do it themselves, it would just create a cultural shift. It would really create this new dynamic where we could be in these healthy, conscious, mature relationships, and we wouldn't have to burden our kids with it so much. Everybody could just be adults and grow up and take care of their own healing.
We're dealing really like with a 5-year-old. Like, if you follow family systems, you're literally dealing with an adult who still behaves emotionally like a 5 or a 10-year-old. And then they're stunted emotionally because likely they were enmeshed with their mother or father, and then they pass it down from one generation to the other, to the other, to the other, and they have no idea. Maybe because they have no idea. They just have no idea.
I don't think they do.
And maybe they know they're too close, because my mother-in-law has actually said this to me, that she feared she'd be too close to her kids. So she knows it on a conscious level, subconscious level. She knows it.
Yeah, but she's not aware of how to even change it, or if she needs to.
Or maybe aware she just doesn't care.
Or that too. Yeah, there could be lots of reasons.
But we'll never know. But that's really what it is. These women have to grow up.
Yeah.
So they can take accountability. Exactly. Because otherwise,
and then it just supports us also as mothers and women and wives too, because if they can do it and we can kind of do it together, it really creates this shift. And it's a loving, responsible, mature thing to do. And we all need to do it. So yeah, that's very interesting. Last one. Yay. Until a man emotionally separates from his mother, can he fully step into mature masculinity and adult partnership? Answered that already. No.
No. And their mommies will always be their spouse, for real. They're real spouses. And the wives will, in our case, will always be the mistresses.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way until they can separate from that. And sometimes they can figure it out. Sometimes they can't. They're always going to be stuck in this dysfunctional dance. And I feel like a lot of these men get sick, like emotionally and sometimes physically, because there's this constant stress battle between the wife and the mom, the wife,
Yeah.
you don't understand.
And it's really sad too. Like now that you're like kind of showing like that too, is this, he's in the middle. And I even told my husband before, I'm like, you're in the middle, like, and you could change this so easily, but at the same time, he does feel in the middle and he doesn't know what to do. And this makes me think back to the one of the times that we had gone to therapy, and she asked us to draw an animal that kind of like represented our dynamic or whatever, or like your favorite animal or something. And I drew a horse, and she was like saying something about like how the horse is like, if you have the matriarch of the group or whatever, then you have the female, and then the male is, he'll automatically go to the matriarch or something. It was something like that, where it was like, oh, I can understand the dynamic here and how you feel dismissed because he'll typically go with the matriarch or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then of course his was a lion. He drew the lion, and I was like, oh yeah, so he's actually in charge, but he's not taking charge because he's afraid of the women, especially his mother. And he knows he's supposed to protect his wife, but he can't because he hasn't taken charge, even though he knows he's supposed to. And so, but at the same time, it's like, if he's so enmeshed in this and so programmed into it and conditioned into it, that if his mother doesn't do anything about it, he's not really going to do anything about it. And then I obviously am going to say, I'm going to do something about it. Well, then I get all the blame again, and the fingers pointed at me. So then the cycle continues because no one's taking accountability for their actions. So,
and the enmeshment is so ingrained that even if the parent passes away, it's not going to change. Like your mother-in-law could pass away tomorrow, and it wouldn't matter. Because it's inside that has to be healed. So people think, oh, well, once the parent passes away, maybe that's how these men think, I'll have finally, I won't be in the middle. But no, you won't, because you're still going to have that enmeshment within you that has to be healed. And I cannot stress to our audience that this is a real thing. This is a serious thing. And it causes so much damage in relationships. And if you're feeling like you possibly are in this type of dynamic, absolutely reach out to us. Like,
for sure.
My company, Real Authentic Self, like people can find me and they can find you as well. Just reach out, because if you, especially us, we've gone through this ourselves, and we can give back to these people who are struggling, to help these people, because it's so sad, and it's a real thing, and it literally destroys lives if it's not addressed. It's not something funny. It's not like a taboo thing that we're just talking about. We've done this podcast for an hour and 15 minutes because it's a real issue, and we can help with this. And you're not alone.
And I love that too, because, just being able to talk about it, like getting real about this situation is important, because just being able to share my experience, your experience, helps other women to see, hey, I'm not alone. This is a real thing. You're seeing it. Me, 21 years into a marriage where from the very beginning I've known this, but not really been able to have the awareness, the conscious awareness on how to change it, or even like how to heal myself through it. You're, 10 years in with your kids. It's just like, we are real people dealing with this, and it is a real issue. And until we can start talking about it in a real way, nothing really starts to change, because you have to kind of acknowledge it. You have to be aware of it. You have to give words to it and feelings to it, so that you can kind of be like, okay, how do we get out of this? Because it is the enmeshment of it all, not just with the relationships, but just in general. Until you acknowledge it and are aware of it, you can't really start to unravel it. And that's kind of, where we are with this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're also a man and you're wondering, oh, maybe I am potentially enmeshed, maybe not, this can also help, right? If you
Absolutely
take the bull by the horns and help yourself. Don't always wait for the other person, to kind of help you, essentially, because this is really your issue. Like, this is your husband's issue. This is my issue. This is not a me issue.
No.
It's a we issue. I told them, like, this is a you issue that you need to resolve. I cannot help you with this. There's
absolutely
no way. I am, like, you are so, just because I'm the bad person, right? So scapegoat.
Yeah.
So you need to take accountability and heal that within yourself. And
that's strong of you to just to stand on that. How does he react to that when you say that to him?
Well, he doesn't see an issue. That's the thing. He doesn't see an issue, and he thinks everything is fine, hunky-dory, and there's other issues going on, let's say, between us, like with values and beliefs. It's like, well,
Absolutely.
yeah, but where do those values come from?
Yeah.
He's not addressing the elephant in
It's the foundation. It's the foundation of everything. And it's like, if they don't understand that this is the foundation of everything, if you are already enmeshed with your mother or parent or whatever, that's the foundation. And you can't deal with those other issues and other things in your marriage.
Surface level. Yeah, that's the elephant in the room that they don't want to address. They'll address, oh, she did this with the parent. She did this with the parenting. She did this. Dude, that's surface level. Like that is like, we have 50 levels underneath that you're supposed to talk about, you know?
Absolutely. That emotional intimacy is very interesting. So,
right. Yeah. And these people tend to be avoided too. Like,
100%. That's because that's what they've,
yeah.
That's one of those character traits that they've had to adopt in order to deal with it, because they couldn't deal with it as children. And so they developed that. And maybe that's what we talk about next week. Or next time. The avoidance. Yeah.
Yeah. The avoidance, like attachment styles and what creates them. Yeah. That's another good one. Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. We want to thank our audience so much for joining us on this.
Thank you, everybody. This is great.
Yeah, hopefully, you guys learned something. I think it's real talk here. We're not making any of this stuff up. I mean, we are literally living this daily, and we're trying to help other people through this. So, yeah, thank everyone for watching, and I will stop the recording. Bye.
Okay, bye.